Hi, Matt. Thanks for joining today. Very excited that you could spare some time. So I understand you're obviously the Chief Executive of the Scout Association, and you're also a trustee for Comic Relief. So I can imagine you've been busy over the last week with that campaign, and you're also a patron of Unlock. So yeah, my first question is, how do you find the time to fit all of that in?
Oh, well, thanks, Mark. It's really good to be with you. Well, yeah, I think these things do take up a lot of time, but they really they're mutually informing and they help you with each of those roles. So being a trustee, I think, helps you as a chief exec because I report to a board as well. And I think all of those things, anything you can do where you're constantly learning helps you develop as a leader. And
Definitely.
they always say ask a busy person, don't they? So I've
Yeah,
always felt you need to keep yourself busy.
definitely. That's great. And what one question I've been dying to ask
Hmm.
is, were you ever a scout yourself?
I was a scout. I was a
Lovely.
Cub Scout and I was a scout. And my brothers were scouts. They were better scouts than me and got their Chief Scout awards. My father was the chair of the executive committee, so like trustee board of the local scouts as well.
Oh,
My
amazing.
grandfather got a gallantry award in 1921 for saving a boy from
Really?
drowning, which we've still got the certificate, signed by Baden Powell, sent from
Oh,
Gilwell Park,
really? Oh,
where I now
amazing.
where I now work, or when I'm not in lockdown. And I was born on the 22nd of February, which is Baden Powell's birthday. So this one was written in the stars, Mark.
Yeah, that's the best answer I could have expected. I think you're officially have it in your DNA, don't you?
That's
Um,
right. Yeah.
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 So it's was I've recently moved house and I found the old sort of scout
Wow.
uniform.
Sea Scouts.
Um, yeah, so I don't like to show off, but I do sort of have quite a few badges
Very
on there.
good. I think I can see an
Um,
entertainer badge there. There's that
yeah,
sportsman badge, and
definitely.
I think I saw a Pathfinder badge on the front. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's around
So
my era, those badges, I think. So you
yeah,
must be a similar age.
it's probably a virtual meeting badge now, I'm
Yes,
sure.
right. Well, there is actually. Yeah, we
So,
did a great indoors badge. We ran this great indoors campaign, which was all about connecting virtually online scouting. And you could earn a badge by doing that. Great indoors badge.
oh,
So,
amazing. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a perfect example of pivoting
yeah,
to
yeah,
the strange world that we live in at the moment.
certainly is.
Um,
Yeah.
and what was like the best memory that you remember as a kid in the Scouts?
In the Scouts, I mean, I think like it's funny. The government's just done a load of research with young people about what they get from youth services, and what people say is friends, leaders,
Yeah.
adult leaders, and developing skills. And they were all the things that I remember.
Hmm.
I remember being Sixer of the Month and having that award, and that was one of the first times I think I got a recognition of my leadership skills, qualities.
Yeah.
It was the first time. I mean, I say to people, it was the first time I ever volunteered. It was the first time I ever fundraised,
Yeah.
and it was the first time I ever led anything. And those were the things and I went on and held leadership positions from that moment forward.
Hmm.
Interestingly, you mentioned Comic Relief, and obviously we just had Comic Relief. The first
Yeah.
time I ever fundraised was for the very first Comic Relief, which was
Oh,
a
really? That's
sponsored leapfrog down
yeah.
the middle of our town centre.
Oh, amazing.
And I'd got the pack, organized it all, sent the money back in. So I think the thing is, these things are formative and they shape
Hmm.
who you are. And I've always believed that what you do outside the classroom and later on the lecture theatre are the
Yeah.
things that make us who we are.
Hmm. I went to ask you to do a demonstration of your leapfrogging
No,
today.
I'm a bit too long in the tooth now, a bit too old to do that sort of thing.
Yeah, don't want to strain anything
Exactly.
before the weekend. Oh, great. And yeah, I guess it's been really interesting to watch what the Scouts Association have been doing remotely. I remember seeing the Chief Scout Bear Grylls, a brilliant ambassador to have out for you guys on the BBC.
Yeah,
So he was promoting your race around the world,
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
which
yeah.
was a great campaign. It'd be great to talk a little bit more about that and what led you to create that event. Yeah,
Sure.
it'd be good to learn a little bit more.
Well, obviously, like every other organisation, Scouting was affected by the pandemic, both in terms of our delivery. You know, within this time last year, we immediately moved all our activities online. We created these within a week, 200 activities called the Great Indoors, and through that, 550,000 families access those activities, both whether they were in Scouts or not in Scouts. But as the year went on, we were being impacted financially as well, because both nationally and locally, nationally, our commercial areas stopped immediately. We rely on those income sources in order to enable to pay for the services that support local scouting. And we've got just over 7,000 scout groups who are all separate charities as well. And they were running out of money, many of them, because while some benefited from something called the Retail Hospitality and Leisure Grant Fund, which was a government grant, if they paid rates. But if they didn't pay rates and they couldn't access that fund, all their income, many were unable to take subs. They weren't able to do their normal fundraising activities. So we had about 500 groups that were vulnerable to closing down due to the fact that they didn't have any income coming in and they still had certain overheads. And so we ran a national campaign. And it was a fundraiser that everyone could get involved in, and it was called Race Around the World. And what that meant was that different scouts, whether they were Beaver Scouts or Cub Scouts or Explorer Scouts, were able to participate in a kind of virtual contest to see how many miles they could do. So if they could do it however they want, they could hike, they could canoe, they could walk, whatever means was to raise that, to get sponsorship. And it was the first of those 4 sections who could get round the world. And I think it was the Cub Scouts in the end that won. I know the Scouts were close. And then from that we raised money, and we raised about 650,000 for that of funding that went directly to those 500 groups, which combined with another fund called the Community Match Challenge from the government and the Pears Foundation meant we were able to save those 500 groups. So it's a great story of in adversity, come together, come out with a great idea, get behind it, make it fun and exciting, even though you're facing jeopardy. And then you've got a great story to tell at the end of it. And we're delighted to say that funding's already gone out now.
Oh, amazing. I mean, it's great from a funding point of view, but also bringing the whole group together virtually.
Sure.
To keep that, obviously getting people outdoors and getting people to collaborate, really.
That's right.
To a bigger goal.
That's right. And just that sense of that we saw so often throughout the pandemic and have seen is communities coming together and people wanting to do something when they felt helpless. Like, well, I just want to do something to help. This was a great way as a family to get involved. And we had not just people from the movement, we had people outside the movement as well who were also playing their part and raising those funds.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. It's not necessarily just the person that's part of Scouts joining in.
Sure.
It's the whole family. So I guess your scope is much larger by enabling that.
Exactly.
That's really good. And you mentioned creating online content, which I remember listening to. I think it was your member online event in February. Where I think delivering the online program was one of the key things people mentioned, especially in Scouts. everything's physical. That's the whole point. It's that offline experience,
Yep.
where everyone's on technology all the time. And I think that's one of the things I liked about Scouts the most is no technology. You're out, you're exploring, you're having that physical side. But yeah, it'd be great to talk a little bit more about, I guess, the online content, and what's working really in terms of creating that.
Sure. I mean, we what we found was 85% of our groups were able to deliver online scouting. We were very grateful to negotiate a fantastic deal with Zoom, who provided all of their pro licenses, so that it wasn't capped at 40 minutes for everyone in scouting, which has been hugely appreciated, and made such a massive difference, and didn't cost us a penny. We also produced materials centrally that people could use for activities. And the great thing about scouting in particular was there was so much sharing that went on of program ideas and activities as well. So there was a Facebook group called First Virtual Facebook Scouts, who loads of people suddenly started developing quizzes or escape rooms. I mean, the most incredible escape rooms that were produced that people could do online. And then also sharing other ideas like cooking at home, making pizzas in a mug, to cakes in a mug, to pancake nights, to also virtual camps people were doing. So we had about 150,000 involved one weekend when we did our own great indoors camp out. So everyone across the country camping out at the same time in their gardens or inside. So what we saw was this incredible explosion of ingenuity and just great resilience through such challenging circumstances. Well, I didn't mention at the start, Mark, was I'm also a scout leader myself. So when I became chief exec, I became a scout leader at the same time and put myself through the whole experience. So I felt better equipped to be able to engage with volunteers and know the challenges they were having on the ground as well. So I've kept virtual scouting throughout this whole period also. And it's been great fun, and we probably had about 10 to 20% who, for different reasons, just online scouting wasn't for them. But the vast majority of my troop kept going and just enjoyed being with each other and seeing their friends, particularly at a time when they were when they weren't at school because of being in lockdown. So I think it's been a lifeline for many leaders. And indeed, I've had a couple of parents say to me, one person who stopped me when I was having a run, to say that one of the only times he heard his child laugh during the week was during Scouts. So this stuff matters at a time when so many people have been affected by mental health. I mean, 2/3 of our members have told us that they've had their mental health got worse in lockdown, like many of us. And I think it's just provided an essential service really to those young people. But of course, people want to get back face to face now, and I'm the same.
We're not going to be able to recreate that experience virtually by any means. I guess like on the virtual side, it's enabled you to share content a lot faster. Do you feel when things sort of post-COVID, when things get back to normal, do you see you continuing that virtual side a little bit in terms of content sharing?
Well, for sure. I mean, we know that a lot of scout groups are already looking at doing this further in the future as part of their program. We're exploring what this means in terms of, is there a digital offer for those who are either on our waiting list, and we've got about 70,000 young people on our waiting list, or to those who can't access scouting for whatever reason, so young carers and the like. Is there a provision there that will allow us to be even more inclusive, albeit a different type of scouting going forward. So I can certainly see that. Beyond that, the engagement we've done with scout leaders and the people who deliver the program has been transformational. We were doing online Zoom meetings before the pandemic, but we were getting several hundred people. When the pandemic struck, on one call we ended up having 15,000 scout leaders on the call, which at the time was nearly the Zoom world record. So I just think, like so many things over the last year, we're looking at how we bank the gains of what we've learned and how we regain what we've lost over that period as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that makes complete sense. I guess it's kind of accelerated your digital presence, hasn't it? Is the good side. And then you mentioned in terms of sort of regrowing what you've lost. What sort of ideas are you looking at to kind of re-engage the physical audience once things sort of start to open up again?
Sure. I mean, well, so you can't go back unless you've done a risk assessment. You've thought through how do you ensure social distancing and restrictions continue and things like that. So we've had to have a whole set of modified games and activities that we've shared with people about how you do that and sharing those ideas. We'll be running. I mean, the key to our survival and our success is volunteers and volunteer recruitment and retention. And how you make life easier for those volunteers as well to do a great job and ensure your people are safe. And we'll be going out with a big recruitment campaign in May with Girl Guiding. And then later in the year, I can't say too much about this yet, but we'll be announcing more about what we might be doing with 4 and 5-year-olds, which is something we've done a pilot on for the last 2 years. And we'll be saying a bit more about that. But I mean, ultimately, it's getting people in the right mindset and of going back to what does face-to-face scouting look like, and reminding people, giving people the confidence that that can be done safely, both for adult volunteers and for young people. And so an awful lot's been done with the government, with the Department for Culture, Media and Sport and the National Youth Agency, to prepare to get back and to ensure that, what does that mean? So I suspect there'll be a lot more outdoor provision, for example, over the next, certainly over the summer, as it gets lighter and the weather gets better.
Particularly, I remember I was watching one of your videos about sort of delivering scouts online. And I remember, I think her name was Megan. She was a Cub Scout leader from Winchester.
Right.
And she mentioned, which I thought was quite a nice idea, is to reach out to your audience for content. So she had one of the parents happened to be a member of the Navy, which is quite handy if you're in Scouts. So she had the parent come to the virtual Zoom meeting and just talking about stories about the work that she does. And I think that's quite a nice idea to not try and take it all on yourself, to share with your peers
for sure,
and your audience as well.
No, that's absolutely right. I mean, so as a volunteer leader, the only way I survive is that and I'm able to do this role because, ironically, my job means I can't make every meeting like lots of people. So because with my chief exec hat on, lots of meetings are at weekends and evenings, because of the voluntary nature of what we do. I've always used both. We're a team of parents who run the troop. There's about 4 or 5 core of us on the team who run scouting. We all do different jobs. Someone does the comms, someone does the camps. I don't do the camps, someone else does the camps. I tend to pull the program together and coordinate, and then someone else helps deliver. The other 2 help deliver the program on a night as well. But in addition to that, we've always used other parents in the group as well. So, for example, we we went to the local police station because one of them was a superintendent and was able to sort of host that evening as well. And I think it's really important. We also have a rota whereby we get parents involved on a weekly basis, partly because some then get the bug and continue to do it more. And certainly one of our permanent team, he started out by coming along occasionally, and then we managed to sort of coax him into becoming a more regular volunteer. But also, I think it's reminding people that the whole effort is voluntary driven, and so everyone has to play their part. It's not like a paid for service where you're paying for tutoring or something like that, or other paid for clubs. It's a community endeavour, and that's what makes it so special.
Yeah, I think when sort of my child sort of grows up a bit more, I'd love to get involved. Like that's on my list to give back. And I mean, especially when I was growing up, some of my best memories were from like survival camps. And at the time, you're cold and you're getting wet, but looking back, like great memories. So yeah, really looking forward to giving back in the future.
That would be great. Yeah. I mean, I hope you do, because one, the difference you make, as you say, someone was creating those memories for you, so you can be creating those memories for someone else. But also, I think the biggest surprise, and I know you'd say, well, you would say this because you're the chief exec of the Scouts, but the biggest surprise to me as a volunteer was the impact on my mental health and well-being, and how much I enjoyed it. How much I enjoyed being part of something different that was just about having fun with others, and how much I sometimes describe it as a bit like when you go to the gym. And I always have that moment of when I have to go to the gym of slightly thinking, oh God, as if I need to do that now. And then after I've been, I'm like, I'm buzzing because of, I'm feeling better about myself. I think volunteering, and in this case, volunteering for the Scouts, is exactly the same. Sometimes there are some days when if you've had a really difficult day at work that you kind of think, oh, as if I need to do this now. But your brain goes into a different space, and you can suddenly, something happens that's quite magical. Which is proven, if you go to Mind or any other mental health charity, they'll say the same. There is a proven link between giving time to others and other elements of the 5 ways to well-being, of being outdoors and being active, that directly contributes towards your mental health and well-being. And in fact, the University of Glasgow in Edinburgh did research that showed you were 15% less likely to suffer from mood disorders or anxiety later on in life if you'd been involved in scouting or guiding.
Oh, really? That's amazing.
It's amazing stat.
And I can see why. Just that, I guess in the modern world, everyone has different devices beeping all the time. Everyone's on computer games, Netflix, etc. So I think scouting's almost more important than ever to get people away from that stressful digital world, if you like. And
I think that's right.
Yeah,
I think that's right.
Yeah,
I think that's right. But also, the things we've lost in the last year that we want to get back to. So what have we learned? We've learned actually the impact of nature on our health and well-being. We've learned about that we've had too much time on screens, and you need to get away from that, and you need to sort of have a sort of a digital detox, and also just being with people and friends, and games and all of that. Not to mention the fact that we're going to need to develop young people's skills if we're going to give them the support and the resilience to catch up and regain or gain those skills that have been lost over the last year.
That's brilliant. Couldn't agree more. Completely agree. And like the last sort of finishing question, the big one, over the last year, what's kind of your biggest learning, I guess?
Gosh. I mean, I think I've learned more in the last year than I've learned in the last 20 years of being a chief exec.
Yeah.
What have we learned? We've certainly, I think one of the things we've learned about ourselves as an organization is, one, this movement's incredibly resilient, and it's always moved with the times, and it's always adapted in times of crisis. It survived two world wars, and it will survive this pandemic and beyond. It's done that because when pushers come to shove, it's focused back onto its core mission. And what is it here to do? And developing young people and their role as citizens, and preparing young people with skills for life was key throughout this whole crisis. It also has stuck together in difficult times. So actually, with the example you gave of Race Around the World, as it pulled together as one movement, and it's a global movement of 53 million people as well. So its strength is how it's adapted and pulled together. And on that same theme at a national level, I mean, there's that quote that plans don't survive first contact with the enemy, and we had to move quickly and adapt and twist and turn, constantly focused on our mission, but having to take some courageous and difficult decisions along the way. So, a third of the staff were made redundant, really, really sadly. And also we've had to sell assets as well. Those factors were necessary because we were constantly focused on how we here through the crisis, through the pandemic, to ensure that we can reach and support as many young people as possible now and in the future as well. So and therefore we've had to, as I say, twist and turn and pivot and be much more agile. And the trick, and I think that's basically what we carry out of this pandemic, is to still be bold and focused on that mission, and not just go back to the old ways of doing things. So to, as I say, bank the gains, regain the losses.
Yeah, perfect. And yeah, another sort of finishing note, if any of the members want to help, obviously volunteering is a big one. And I also noticed on scouts.org.uk, they can top right corner donate, which I'll be doing after this call, just to say thank you. But yeah, if any of our members are fortunate enough to be able to do that, that would be amazing if they could.
Well, that's incredibly generous of you. Thank you for that. Scouting only thrives because communities enable it to thrive, from local businesses to volunteers giving their time to the great British public who donate and support us at times of need. And so we would love if people are even thinking about volunteering, as you say, please go on scouts.org.uk. It tells you how to volunteer. You can find your local scout group as well. And we need as many people as we can get to support the demand that there is. I mentioned the 70,000 young people on the waiting list. Those young people need the support, and we can make those young people as great as they can be, and the country great at the same time.
Definitely. That's great. Thank you very much for your time, Matt. I know you're a very busy man,
Pleasure.
And hopefully we can get you on in a year's time, and you can talk about the gains you've banked, and then obviously pushing forward with your core mission, and continue to do all of the great work that you do at the Scouts.
Would love to.
Nice one. Thanks a lot, Matt.